everyone, we're going to solve trig equations that have double identities, angle identities. And so basically you need to know your double identities, and the ones we're going to use are sine of 2, we'll just put x, equals 2 sine of x times cosine of x, and cosine of 2x. And we're going to use there's three, but the ones we're going to use are 2 cosine squared of x minus 1. Let me erase this. So we're going to either use this one or this one, 1 minus 2 cosine squared of x. So let's get started. By the way, we're only going to do these three right here. This is part 2. And I already did part 1, and then the next set will be part 3. So basically, we have cosine of 2x equals cosine of x. Since this is a cosine, we want to use the double angle identity that includes cosine. So that one's going to be 2 cosine squared of x minus 1. So all I'm doing is substituting this for my double angle identities. Now we want to make a trinomial, so we're going to move that cosine of x over to the left-hand side and then factor. So when you factor this, you're going to get 2 cosine x. These two have to be 1. One's positive, one's negative. Since this is negative, this here, I'm going to go ahead and make this negative and this positive. And it works because you get negative 2 plus 1 here. So now you just solve for x. So we're going to set this to 0. So 2 cosine of x plus 1 equals 0. And this piece to 0. Cosine of x minus 1 equals 0. So for this one we get cosine x, subtract the 1, divide by 2. And for this one, we're going to just add the 1 to both sides. So where does cosine equal negative 1/2? That's where your x is negative 1/2. And cosine's negative in quadrants 2 and 3. So this would be 2 pi over 3 and 4 pi over 3. And where does cosine equal 1? That's where your x equals 1, and it's right here. And that would be at 0 pi radians, or just 0. Right? And the next one, we have sine of 2x. So in this one, we'll go back to our, there's only one double angle for sine, and it's 2 sine of x cosine of x equals cosine of x. Now don't divide both sides by cosine. We're going to move it over because of this double angle. You don't want to lose solutions. So minus cosine of x equals 0. If you divide, you're going to lose your cosines. So let's factor out a cosine and not lose it instead of divide. So when you factor it out, you're going to get 2 sine of x minus 1 equals 0. Now set both sides to 0, so you get cosine of x equals 0. This piece, you're going to get sine of x equals, add the 1, and divide by 2. So now we just have to find on the unit circle, or hopefully you have this memorized. You can do this. So where does x equal 0? And that's right here and here. Remember, cosine is your x value. So that's going to be pi divided by 2 and 3 pi divided by 2. And where does remember sine is really like your y value. Where is sine 1/2? Your y is right here. So 1/2 here and right here. And that's going to be pi divided by 6 and at 5 pi divided by 6. All right, and the last one we have for part 2 is this one. And so we have 3 double angles for cosine 2x. The one we want to use is 1 minus 2 sine squared of x. The reason we want to do that is because this is sine of x. And so we can factor. Now I'm going to rewrite this to sine squared x minus sine x plus 1 equals 0. I know I'm going to have to factor this. I don't like leading with the negative, so I'm just going to negate this whole equation, change all the signs opposite, and then factor. Just makes it easier. So we have 2 sine x, and we have a 1 and 1 for this 1 here. So since I need a positive here, I'm going to make this positive and this negative. So basically take these pieces apart and set them to 0. For the first part, you'll get sine of x equals, we're going to add the 1, divide by 2. And for this piece here, we're just going to subtract the 1. Therefore, your solutions are, where does sine equal 1/2? Well, it's your y, which is here and here. Sine is positive in quadrant 1 and 2. So that's going to be pi over 6 and 5 pi divided by 6. And where does sine of x equal -1? So that's where's your y -1, and it's right here, which is 3 pi divided by 2. And that's it for this set. The next set's going to be the last 3 problems. Thank you. Have a nice day. Bye-bye.